on Soviet Union, then you have Russia, you have France, and then you have China. So most of the countries have a monopoly on and the national institute used to have a monopoly on that. And now slowly we are seeing the private sector that is coming on. SpaceX is a classic example. A lot of countries are now
Tapas, I'll
trying
ask you
to
to pause for a
replicate
bit.
the success.
We're trying to take the audio as well of this undocking process. 1 second.
Central, 7:34 a.m. Eastern, which will set Dragon and the Axiom Mission 4 crew back on their journey home to Earth. Following this mission and splashdown tomorrow morning, we'll have spent 695 days in space across 5 flights, which places her 7th on the all-time list for cumulative days in space. Again, we are continuing to stand by for that final go, no-go poll. For those of you who are just joining us, we are providing live coverage of the Axiom mission for undocking and departure activities. The undocking is now slated to take place at 6:15 a.m. Central handover between satellites. This causes a loss of signal from the station and the Dragon cameras. There will be currently on your screen you see a dual view with the SpaceX Mission Control room in Hawthorne, California on the left-hand side of your screen, and the International Space Station Flight Control Room here at Mission Control Houston on the right-hand side of your screen. Both of these teams currently working in tandem through today's joint operations. Those joint operations will conclude after Dragon exits the approach ellipsoid, which is one of the invisible boundaries around the International Space Station that governs visiting vehicles when they are arriving and departing from the orbiting laboratory.
So there you saw how it's a tandem sort of a process that is being conducted from 2 different sources there on Earth. Whereas there are, of course, the astronauts who are there in the capsule which is undocking from the space station. Let me bring in Lieutenant General Anil Bhatt, retired in this broadcast as well. He has been DG Indian Space. He's DG Indian Space Association, so sort of representing the Indian space industry as well. Lieutenant General Anil Bhatt, welcome to this broadcast. What can you tell us about, because we know the kind of stakes that ISRO has in this entire mission with Group Captain Shukla on board. But what kind of stakes does the entire Indian space industry really have in this particular mission, in this undocking, critical undocking which is going on?
So let me tell you that if I would say Shubhanshu Shukla is on the first step of crewed missions of India to space and to moon and beyond. And this whole journey, which will start with Gaganyaan mission, go to the Bharat Antariksh Station, and thereafter to the moon, will primarily be led by ISRO, but many subcomponents, components will be made by the private sector. And that is why we look eagerly at this first step and this event which is taking place. It's a huge opportunity for all of our members in private space to contribute to India's journey, which the first step is being taken now.
What is the potential there really in terms of how our private industry can contribute and then, of course, not only make money but also grow?
As far as outer space and crewed missions go, today it is not about making money. It is about exploratory science, about doing things for the nation in the future. But yes,
money has to be made
give
to be able to
opportunities
do
to
those
the private
things.
sector to grow, and in future, when we do land on the moon or we have international space stations, there would be opportunities for manufacturing, there would be opportunities for tourism, there would be opportunities for experiments in microgravity, and many other such opportunities.
Yes, and in terms of space, as if I were to borrow a term from Star Trek, it was termed the final frontier there. now there's some debate on what the final frontier is, because we have artificial intelligence also evolving very quickly. But still, the kind of opportunity that this represents, the opportunity in space that represents, how do you see it in terms of where it can take the human race?
So, the leaders in space today, and I would even say, which involves private players like Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk and Richard Branson. The aspirations are for making human beings not only to stay on Earth, but to stay on other planets, maybe Moon and Mars in the future. And definitely in the cislunar space, there will be number of space stations where human beings will be working, manufacturing, experimenting, and even using it for tourism all over in the space. That is what is envisaged, what will take place in the next 20 to 30 to 40 years, depending on how technology also continues to grow the way space has been growing. But definitely, there are many, many more opportunities, and asteroid mining in a few decades would really become a reality, where it will save Mother Earth, where we would not require to do any mining. And similarly, for fossil fuels maybe become obsolete as soon as we develop a capability to put on solar power beams down to Earth for powering many of our activities here on Earth.
Wonderful. Those are some of the possibilities that you mentioned. I'm sure there are many more. I'll just ask you to just bear with us for a while. We're just taking the audio of how this entire mission is being conducted right now from these two critical locations once again.
Confirmation that that undock sequence has been sent, and the umbilicals are now retracting. With that undock command sent, that undocking sequence has now commenced, and that is a roughly 4.5-minute process before we have that physical separation planned for 6:15 a.m. Central, 7:15 a.m. Eastern.
Umbilical demate complete and nominal.
And we have confirmation that those umbilicals have demated or detached from the space station, and the first set of hooks is now traveling. Again, there are 2 sets of 6 hooks for a total of 12 hard capture hooks that have to unlatch and drive open. After all 12 of those hooks are open, we will then have those very short thruster firings known as undock burns to physically separate from station. We're now just over 1 minute into that undock sequence. Again, that sequence takes about 4.5 minutes total, so about 3.5 minutes to go. In that sequence, the first set of hooks is currently driving open. After that first set is open, we will then stand by for the second set of 6 hooks to open. And then there will be those 2 short thruster firings to physically separate Dragon from the International Space Station. And there on your screen, you are currently seeing a live view inside the SpaceX Mission Control Room in Hawthorne, California, as well as the International Space Station Flight Control Room here in Houston, Texas, as the flight controllers on the ground continue to work in tandem to support today's undocking and departure activities of Axiom Mission 4 crew from the International Space Station. And we are currently in a handover period between satellites, which is why we don't currently have live views of Dragon from space station.
First set of hooks open and nominal.
And we have confirmation that that first set of 6 hooks has now fully opened, and now the second set of 6 hooks is beginning to retract. After that second set of hooks opens, we will then have those short thruster firings and have physical separation. We are now about 4 minutes into that autonomous undocking sequence that began at 6:10 a.m. Central, 7:10 a.m. Eastern. We are standing by for physical separation here in just under a minute at 6:15 a.m. Central, 7:15 a.m. Eastern, once the final set of 6 hooks has fully retracted.
All hooks now open and nominal.
And Dragon Grace has
Dragon separation confirmed.
And Dragon Grace has officially undocked from the International Space Station at 6:15 a.m. Central, 7:15 a.m. Eastern, as the orbiting laboratory was flying 260 statute miles over the east coast of India. And we also have confirmation that the first departure burn of the 4 departure burns is underway. And that first departure burn has completed.
Performance nominal.
And then the next departure burn, depart burn 1, will take place in about 5 minutes. After that departure burn is complete, Dragon will cross the keep out sphere. And with the undocking about a minute ago at 6:15 a.m. Central, 7:15 a.m. Eastern, the Axiom Mission 4 crew comprised of The Axiom Mission 4 crew comprised of Peggy Whitson, Shubhanshu Shukla, Sławosz Uznański-Wiśniewski, and Tibor Kapu have completed their 18-day stay aboard the International Space Station. So following the physical separation, we did have the first depart burn complete, known as depart burn 0. That was a short firing of Dragon's Draco thrusters, and it lasted approximately 16 seconds. And that burn was to increase the speed that Dragon is flying away from the station and send it further away from the orbiting laboratory. That departure burn will be followed
Houston
in
Station,
about 3
ISS
minutes.
thrusters are enabled.
Houston copies.
The depart burn 0 will be followed by the second departure burn in just about 3 minutes, around 6:20 a.m. Central, 7:20 a.m. Eastern, known as depart burn 1, and that will help move the spacecraft beyond the keep out sphere. And just a moment ago, you were hearing some communication between the Capcom or capsule communicator here in Mission Control Houston and the crew aboard the International Space Station. Currently on board the International Space Station, NASA astronaut Anne McClain was on tap to monitor and support Dragon's departure activities today. So once that second departure burn is completed in a couple of minutes from now, the Dragon and Axiom Mission 4 crew will move beyond the keep-out sphere, and the keep-out sphere is that invisible 200-meter line.
AX4 crew wants to thank you very much for your support. You guys are amazing.
And you just heard some kind words from Axiom Mission 4 Commander, thanking the flight control team for all of their support throughout their 18-day mission.
Friendship and goodwill forever be an example of the good that results from shared optimism. Axiom 4, Godspeed, and safe journey home to the best planet in the solar system.
Great copies.
And some additional congratulatory and departure words from the International Space Station crew to the Axiom Mission 4 crew on board Dragon as it continues its departure from the International Space Station. Again, we had that physical separation take place about 4 minutes ago at 6:15 a.m. Central, 7:15 a.m. Eastern. And we are standing by for the second in a series of 4 departure burns to take place in about 1 minute from now, and this will push the Dragon spacecraft and the Axiom Mission 4 crew beyond the keep-out sphere. That keep-out sphere is the invisible 200-meter line centered on the space station, and it is one of several safety zones set up to govern spacecraft arriving and departing from the space station. Before moving into the keep-out sphere, spacecraft have to be configured where they would not cross the imaginary boundary for at least 4 orbits, even if the spacecraft lost all maneuvering. We are now about 10 seconds away from that second departure burn. Dragon is currently about 80 meters away from the International Space Station as it continues its departure. And depart burn 1, again, that second departure burn in a series of 4 is now underway, and it'll last about 20 seconds.
Dragon SpaceX on the big loop, depart burn 1 complete and nominal. You are go to DOF suits per procedure 4.012.
Nominal departure and 4012 for Dragon.
And we just had confirmation there that that second departure burn, known as depart burn 1, has completed, and it was executed as expected. The crew is now going to start doffing or removing their spacesuits and getting settled in for their 22.5-hour journey back to Earth, again with that splashdown targeted for tomorrow morning, July 15th, off the coast of California. And as a reminder, just like during its approach to the International Space Station, Dragon's departure and deorbit is designed to be fully autonomous, requiring no action from the crew on board. However, unlike Dragon's arrival, there are no hold points during the departure sequence, therefore it takes a lot less time to leave the vicinity of the space station than to arrive. So we just had confirmation of that second departure burn being completed, and that is the second in a series of 4. However, it's the only one that was left within the vicinity of the space station. The next departure burn will take place about 45 minutes from now, after Dragon is well on its way back to Earth and outside of the approach ellipsoid. Dragon is now about 195 meters away from the International Space Station and should be crossing the keep-out sphere momentarily. And we just heard confirmation that Dragon has exited the keep-out sphere. Again, the keep-out sphere is an invisible 200-meter line centered on the space station. It's one of several safety zones set up to govern spacecraft arriving and departing from the International Space Station. While spacecraft are inside the keep-out sphere, they have to be configured where they would not cross into the imaginary boundary for at least 4 orbits, even if the spacecraft lost all maneuvering.
So what we've just seen and heard are some critical moments of that undocking of the Dragon capsule, which is carrying the astronauts, including Group Captain Shubhanshu Shukla, India's Shubhanshu Shukla, back to Earth. They've just begun a 22.5-hour journey. They are out of the keep-off space of the International Space Station, which basically means that after 2 burns, one the 0 and the second, which is the first burn, they have attained a distance of over 200 meters away from the ISS, which is a safe distance, and now they can commence their journey back to Earth. 2 more burns will be involved, as the lady announced there, the next one in about 45 minutes from now. But the essence of that is they are now well and away from the International Space Station on, well, a slightly long, maybe tiring for them, but they're pretty accustomed to these kind of experiences. But again, what will really be tiring is when they come back to Earth and they'll have to acclaim themselves with Earth's gravity. Okay. So that's quite a journey that has been begun, although that journey really started last month as far as these astronauts are concerned, who've been on the ISS, well, about for 14, 15 days, but the total time, of course, has been 18 days. Thank you for joining us through this broadcast, Lieutenant General Anil Bhatt, retired DG, Indian Space Association, and Tapas Bhattacharya, my colleague as well, for being with us. We anxiously await the return of Group Captain Shubhanshu Shukla to Earth, which is happening tomorrow around 3 o'clock in the afternoon, Indian Standard Time, and we'll keep getting you updates on this journey as we get more updates on it as well. Thanks for joining us for the moment, and keep watching DD India for all the latest. My colleague Tanvi is up next for the news ahead.
When I came here, I was very much, astonished by the food which is available here, the culinary food which is available from every part of India. It is impossible to get everything here done, and there are many, setup like the tawas and the oven, pizza ovens, everything. This is impossible to bring it here. I thank the Shrine Board and this Bhandara for getting all the things here.